Hey yo, how's it going everyone? Entropy here, today with another video. Today we're finally going to be doing a deck profile for Genesis. It has been almost 2 months since Genesis got released, but I finally collected all my pieces. Remember, I didn't really open a lot of packs. I'm a free-to-play player after all. So I did end up spending the last, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 weeks crafting whatever or playing ranked to collect everything that I want. Play tested this for the last week or so. You can check out some more fights if you want in the viewer fights, my last stream. But I guess without further ado, let's jump straight to the deck profile. Excuse my embarrassing voice crack over there. So honestly, this deck is really fun, but I would say it isn't really that competitive, like compared to the other decks in the meta. But anyways, I guess if you are interested in Genesis, you know, with the Fortuna stuff and all that good stuff coming out in set 11 in like a week, you know, you can just wait for that stuff. But I guess if you are interested in the current build, the set 9 build, this is what I've mustered up. So this is a Himiko and Artemis build, playing with the ride chain, with the Artemis ride chain, and the ride chain is pretty good. So, you know, this is the standard. When you ride grade 1, you can check top 7 for the grade 2 or grade 3, add it to your hand. If not, you call the grade 0 out. And generally, if I do miss it, I put the starter behind the Vanguard, because your grade 2s, most of them, you know, have on-hit skills. And if you're just gonna play that one grade 2 on your turn, you're more likely to have that one grade 2 in the Vanguard circle than more than one, right? That means you have to invest more. And so, since you're always gonna have a grade 2 in your Vanguard circle, and since most of them have an on-hit, having that extra 5k booster doesn't hurt. In addition, the grade 1 is pretty good. If you ride a grade 2 that isn't the Artemis grade 2, you get to check top 7 to re-ride, try again. So it's similar to the Coral one, but this one is much more important, I think, with the grade 2 being very strong. And we'll get to it really quickly. Next, we play 4 PGs. This is the only type of PGs that Genesis has right now. They only have the new one. So I guess you don't really have to pick. That's the good thing. The bad thing is you have less versatile options. But even so, I think that since this is the Limit Break Ride centric deck, having the new PGs doesn't hurt. And lastly, 4 copies of Witch of Frogs and Melissa. This card is great. You definitely want to play 4 of this and 4 of the grade 2 version as well. In the soul, during your turn, when this card is soul blasted, put into the drop zone, you can counter blast 1 and call this out. Superior call this out and give it +3. So it can act as a 10k attacker, 10k booster, and gives you that multi-attack option that Genesis doesn't really have outside of using stance, I suppose. At the moment. Next up, of course, we have 4 Witch of Raven Chamomile. So this card is the same as the Witch of Frogs, you know, Superior Call, 9+3, and this is definitely great because it's 12k attacker. And what this means is you can place out grade 3s in the front row to attack with, and then Superior Call grade 2s on top of it. So you have that offensive multi-attack option, and you patch up your defense with having that intercept if you don't finish off your opponent. Next up, of course, we play the 4 of the Artemis. This card's great when you have the grade 1 the soul plus 1k. In addition, when it hits, you can soul charge 2, and if the grade 1 is in your soul, you soul charge 2 again. So one thing that's really fun with this card is you don't really need to play the ride chain to play this card, since you don't really, you know, unless you want the soul charge 4, then even by itself it soul charges 2. In addition, from playing with this card, even if you miss the ride chain and you hit soul charge 2, if you soul charge the grade 1 on the first soul charge 2, the second skill procs. So if you miss the ride chain, if you didn't even draw into it, it's not that unlikely that you will soul charge the grade 1 through the on-hit, and then you'll soul charge 2 again, and that's super fun. You patch up your defenses, and you get that extra soul, and when that happens, it's like, you know, well, you missed the ride chain, but I guess it worked out anyways. Next, we're playing 3 Broom Witch Callaway. Now, Broom Witch Callaway, I didn't really expect this card to be that important, but since this deck doesn't really have a lot of draw power outside the break ride turns, the on-hit Counterblast 2 draw 1 card definitely lets you invest more cards in the early game to handle a lot of these aggressive decks in the meta, like Murakumo, for example, really popular, especially since it just got released, and the on-hit definitely does help out. In addition, you will notice that we aren't playing 9 draws, so the extra draw power early game is definitely very, it defines the deck. And for the last grade 2 slot, we have Ballot Maiden Sahohime. In the stream, I believe I interchanged this with a 10k, since I have all the witches right now. I do want to play this more properly, and on hit, counterblast 1 Soul Charge 3 is pretty good. And this is a Vanguard rearguard skill, so don't hesitate to ride this or call this to the front row. Yeah, and definitely since this deck doesn't really have as much soul charge options, you know, you have a lot of cards that actually use a lot of soul. If you miss a ride chain, then this is your best go-to Vanguard to counterblast 1 Soul Charge 3, so then you can proc your other skills moving forward. Apologies, but I did miss one of the grade 1s. This is the Witch of Cats Kumin, and this is just, you know, the generic Vanguard rearguard on play Soul Charge 1. You will have better options moving into the future. I don't really like the booster on hit Counterblast 2, because Counterblast 2 for Soul Charge 3 is quite expensive. You might as well just use Sahuhime, right? But nonetheless, you know, on play Soul Charge 1, it's versatile. You don't really need to hit to activate it, and you can do it whenever you want. And this is a decent ride target as well, so why not? For the grade 3 slots, this is obvious. Oracle Queen Himiko, this is the only break ride that Genesis has at the moment, but they will have another option in the next set. So if you are playing Genesis, do look forward to that. This card gives you that skill when rolled upon, your Vanguard gets +10, 2 of your rearguards gets +5 to help you hit numbers, whether that's boosting or attacking. And in addition, the new Vanguard gets, when this attack of Vanguard, Soul Blast 3 to draw 2 cards and put a card into your soul, so it definitely patches up that draw issue. And lets you set up those combos by putting a card into your soul. In addition, when this card attacks, it can Soul Charge 1 to get +1. So this is nice because it helps you hit those 12k numbers. With a booster, can hit crosser numbers if that's still a thing. Even though I don't really see that as a big issue for this meta anymore. And also the Soul Charge 1 on attack is still pretty decent. And then ARTEMIS, the grade 3 ARTEMIS, so this is the rank reward one, the SP, got 2 copies if you're top 500. This card skill is Limit Break 4, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, Soul Blast 3 to draw 2 cards, and then put a card from your hand into soul, and this unit gets +5. So this is like the skill that Himiko gives you on Break Ride, but you get the extra 5k. In addition, it gets Persona Blast, discarding itself to check top 5, add 1 card into your hand, and put the rest at the bottom, so you can pseudo stack. It's still checked top 5, so it's reminiscent of the Tsukiyomi kind of line. But yeah, sometimes definitely, because we're not playing 9 draws, being able to pick and choose what card you want to add to your hand is definitely really good. And most cases, this is either the PG or the grade 2's pieces that you do want. And lastly, if the grade 2 is in the soul, you get +1. Next up, for the heal trigger, we have Battle Maiden Mizuha. Mizuha is a pretty mediocre card, but is actually, you know, it's best of what we have right now. Limit Break 4 on Vanguard Circle. When this attacks the Vanguard, you can Soul Blast 3 to get +5/+1 grit until end of turn. So this gives you that crit option if you do want that. And in addition, when this card attacks the Vanguard, it gets +3k. So, you know, still a decent option. If you really are desperate, you go into Mizuha if you want the aggression. If you want the defensive plays and the multi-attack plays, mostly you play ARTEMIS. That's basically the idea. And then the last tech slot, we have Eternal Goddess Iwanagi Hime. Very long name. Very big Soul Blast cost as well. Vanguard Circles, Limit Break 4. Soul Blast 6 to retire all of your opponent's front row rearguards. So immediately you wipe out your opponent's front row, get rid of those intercepts, get rid of those pesky grade 3s, grade 1s, and go face hard. In addition, you can Soul Blast 3 to get 5k. Rarely will you use the second skill, but it does come in handy sometimes when you don't have the 6 soul. You might as well just get the final turn extra power to hit over numbers. And the bad thing about this card, the reason why I don't really suggest you play more than one, even though I just have 1 copy, which means I didn't really get to test it, is because even when I play that 1 copy, I rarely want to ride this card. Because, you know, the other cards that Soul Blast to use skill, this is on battle phase, right? And that means that your witches of Ravens, Chamomiles, and your Melissas can get maximum value, because when you Soul Blast them during battle phase, you get to call them out. You have extra units, but also extra attack, extra options. But if you do this during the main phase, it means that you will have to proc these witches during the main phase, which means you don't have that multi-attack option anymore, and that's actually quite vital for this deck to work. In addition, some of you might ask, you know, I've mentioned this many times, why aren't we playing 9 draws? Originally, I did try the 9 draws variant, but the problem is I deck out. I deck out too much, and in the last stream, you will see I had a mirror match with a viewer. Because of our different trigger lineup, because our opponent played more draw triggers, they decked out first. Of course, there's still slightly different types of plays. Like I played more conservatively, given that I considered that they were seeing more draw triggers and all that, playing more defensively. But nonetheless, playing 9 draws is a bit too risky with such a big Soul Charge deck, especially when we're playing a lot of cards that Soul Charge 3, on hit Soul Charge 4, on attack Soul Charge 1, and as the game prolongs, you can't sustain itself. And so that's why I decided to play crits to help out with the early game aggression that this deck doesn't really have. And the reason why I did put the crit on the Artemis is that, well, you know, you might think, oh, well, if you ride the grade 1, the grade 0 searches the crit trigger, isn't that a bad thing? Well, for me, I'd rather check a draw trigger most of the time than a crit trigger, so I'm okay with having that crit trigger in my hand. And, you know, that's just how it is. I just really don't want to pull, to draw, keep hitting into draw triggers when my deck count is low, and it's happened way too frequently for me, and that's why I decided to play crits. Some people choose to put the crit on Mizuha, and the idea is that, well, if I didn't run Mizuha, at least that means that the odds of hitting a crit trigger is higher. But at the same time, I played around with the trigger distributions. I don't really want to put, you know, a crit or a heal or anything other than a draw on Himiko, since this is our ideal first ride target. So this is just what I ended up with. Feel free to let me know down below what works for you and what doesn't. But yeah, I guess with that said, let's jump straight into a game. And of course, if you check out here, we are repping that summer outfit for Misaki, waifu. And with this Genesis clan as a whole, I've been playing a good amount. I've been playing a good amount. This is the deck that I've honestly enjoyed after I spent most of last season playing a lot of Eradicators. So we got to clan level 5, played a little bit more than that. But overall, I think with the new set of support, with set 11, you're definitely going to see Genesis performing a lot better. Does that mean they will be meta? I definitely don't think so. Not yet. I don't think that they're strong enough to perform that well in the meta. But it's about an investment, right? I think Genesis, in the long run, they will be doing pretty good, especially late into the Break Ride era. So, I mean, we haven't seen the cards released in JP yet with the Regalia support, but I do have high hopes for it, and I do think that they probably will perform pretty well. So something else to mention with this deck is that while we do have the Ride Chain, keeping the witches in your hand isn't that bad, and I'll kind of explain why. It's because if you ride the witches, it means that you're guaranteeing that these cards are in your soul. You don't have to rely on the random soul charge or the mass soul charges to get your combo pieces. When you ride that card, you know that it's going to be there. And that's a positive, right? It means that out of your grade 1s, you have 8 out of 13 options that you're comfortable riding with. Of course, you know, it depends on the situation where you choose the witch. And most of the time, I would still recommend going with the Ride Chain since it's a easy plus. But it's still nice to be comfortable with 8 out of 13 options to ride. And in addition, it's the same thing with the grade 2 slot. You know, you can go with the Ride Chain, which is pretty good on hit Soul Charge 4, or Soul Charge 2, or Soul Charge 4, or you can just go for the Witch for consistency. It really depends, in my opinion, it depends on what grade 3 you have in your hand, in your opening hand. If you don't have anything, go with the Ride Chain. It means that you have a higher likelihood of getting a grade 3. If you already have Himiko, sometimes I just go straight into the Witch, and it works out pretty good for me. So here, I'm considering if I should go straight to the Witch. But one thing that I really want is the plus. I want to see the grade 2. I do want to see the grade 3. So primarily the grade 2, but I'm okay with seeing the grade 3 Artemis. So let's just stick to the basics and just go with the Ride Chain. Keep it plain and simple. And we're going to go for the grade 2. And let's jump into battle. So our opponent's creating a crit variant of Aquaforce with Hydro Hurricane Dragon? Pretty interesting. I mean, you know, even the Nicholas and the Jackal Kid is it's not very popular. So it's an interesting matchup to see what is how this game will go. Apologies for the notifications. So yeah, I think overall this deck is really, really fun. A lot of people underestimate it, and again, you know, there's no reason to underestimate your opponent. Just play perfectly, even if it's a VP farmer. Just play out your defenses. You might think it's rude, but in my opinion, it's better safe than sorry. Always, you just want the win anyways. Just play it properly. And you have a lot of flexible ride options. You have a lot of flexible plays. If you want crit pressure, you have crit pressure. If you want draw power, you have break ride draw power. If you want multi-attack, you have multi-attack. And you have a lot of different options that you can play with. Of course, it is a soul-based deck, like Dark Irregulars, like Pale Moon, and like Current Genesis. You have a lot of cards that soul charge, but soul charge randomly. And that definitely hurts its consistency and doesn't make it perform as well as the other clans. But definitely, you know, if you are down for a good time, just playing casually and enjoying making these big moves, complicated kind of decision trees, then this is definitely a deck for you. And I love the variety, I love the variation, and definitely embrace it. If you can embrace it, then this is the deck for you. So here we're just gonna build up a 16k column. We're gonna focus on attacking with Vanguard first here because, again, as explained, you know, as usual, we have 1-1, which means that if we hit with Rearguard first, our opponent's going to be at 2 damage, which means we can't proc our heals. We still have 3 heals in our deck, so the odds aren't that bad. In addition, the on hit is pretty good, Soul Charge 4. You may as well just get it over with and guarantee that it'll work. And of course, our Rearguard column isn't hitting 10k by itself anyway, so we just got to put a booster here to hit 15k. So that if we both don't hit triggers, then at least it will still pass. Here, we said we still had 3 heal triggers, and we just hit one of them. So this is why you need to be mindful, even in the early game. Even though it's just one trigger check, every single one counts, and you just gotta be careful, be wary, and play perfectly. Consider all your options, and that will propel your game. Of course, there is still variance in this game. You can't guarantee a win, but you gotta try your best, try to maximize your chances, and this is how we try to play the game. So here, we got really lucky. The first Soul Charge 2, we hit Melissa and Xiaomao. Of course, we did hit 2 triggers anyways, but that's okay. I think that's pretty good. In addition, of course, we hit that heal trigger that we just talked about. And we are in a really advantageous situation. Act Force really wants to beat you down fast. And we just denied them that option. Here, our opponent is also playing crits, draws, heals. So we know that they aren't playing, at least we know that they aren't playing 9 draws. And Aqua Force as an aggressive clan really does want that draw power. So especially with the damage difference right now with 0 to 2, an idea could be just stall out the game, get rid of their pieces, and seal it off. Another idea would just be trading face, just match their aggression, and finish them off before they can accumulate the damage and pieces to finish me off. Right now, I am more leaning towards, you know, just going Himiko into Mizuha, try to burn down their resources. When they put me to 4, I'll just break ride, gain more power, pull out my multi-attack pieces, crit pressure, all that good stuff, and seal off the game the turn after. And that's just how it is. This is interesting. One's not using Nicholas because they noticed that it doesn't skip intercepts, which is why you shouldn't play this card. But maybe they're just trying to preserve the Valeria after misplaying. I don't know. Maybe you should have considered the play. So yeah, again, one advice would be consider what you want to do during your ride phase before you do anything. And of course, some skills you gotta proc on the turn. So for example, if you call out something that then does something else or draws you extra cards, you do want to consider those differently. But most of the time, you will be able to map out all your plays during your ride phase. And if you map it out properly before going into the turn, then you know, definitely avoid misplays like this. For some plans, you don't really have the liberty to, with so many different, you know, variables or random effects or long animations like Genesis. It kind of sucks, but most of the time, you consider what you want to do and then do it, and that way you avoid these these awkward situations like this. So here we ride the Himiko, the break ride. It's pretty standard. We don't really need more soul. We're already at 7, so we're comfortable. Let's just play slow, hit face, We also have 2 PGs, so we're pretty comfortable. You know, opponent showed 1 glory, so we should be wary about calling out the grade 3. We might as well keep it in the hand if we don't really need to call it out. And we did soul charge another witch, which is perfect. You know, having that witch in the soul means another offensive option again, which is always great. So here our opponent did do decently in the Aquaforce season with the, well, you know, as seen from the SP copy. So I'm a bit confused with what they're trying to do here, but I guess what that also illustrates is that maybe ranking, you know, top 3K or top 1K, you know, maybe it's more of a measure of effort than skill. But that's a side topic. Personally, I think it's really debatable. But you know, when people still make misplays like that, I think it's pretty not reflective of the effort that most people. Maybe they're having a bad day. I don't know, but. Yeah, so opponent hasn't been playing these cards in their hand really frequently. Drew into their draw triggers, which is really unfortunate, by the way. But one of the deficits of playing decks like Genesis or decks like OTT, for example, is that the games are longer. You know, you're not finishing your opponent as fast. The decision making is not as linear. You need to consider more things. And what that means is, in terms of just the ranked metagame, you know, the game doesn't measure how well you play or how many good decisions you made. It's just if you win or lose and how fast or slow you do it, right? Because, you know, there is a time limit. Doesn't really feel like it, but there is only 14 days in the season. So every minute you take to finish a game, every additional minute you take to finish the game adds on to that stress to have to finish that season. So definitely one of the areas of consideration when you see a lot of these, you know, aggressive decks like Mirakumo or Eradicators or Royal Paladins with MLB or Jewel Knights. There is a reason. It's just because they finish games faster. And you know they win games. So just call them out. We're gonna do our on hit draw 1 PG. All right, next turn we're gonna get our limit break ride. So pretty good. We hit the crit. We're gonna force out that PG. Remember, it's important to recognize which decks that you're facing have new PGs and old PGs, and that way you can play around them as well. But here, I'm honestly kind of bored. Let's just go face. Like, it might consider attacking into the rear guard. Here, we're not going to soul charge. We only have 12 cards left. Soul charge 3 is too much. And if you think about it, imagine if we played, you know, 9 draws, right? We would have been like at like 10 cards, 9 cards maybe, and that would be a really poor situation. Even with just 5 draws, our deck count is half of our opponent's. So it's not the most comfortable deck if you don't really like playing to the last of your cards. But when you have this many options, it feels really refreshing to me, and it really depends on your style of play. I'd say Genesis isn't for everyone. So yeah, I mean, overall, I think we're pretty comfortable moving into the end game. Next turn, we're going to break ride, have that crit option, multi-attack into our opponent. Opponent's at 4 anyway, so we're going to proc that. Alright, they're playing Storm Rider Eugen, and this one does ignore intercepts. It's a 6+3. So your opponent has that Hydro Hurricane, so it's probably a 4 crit, 5 draw. 4-ish crit, 5-ish draw. And then 4 heal variant. Yeah, probably 4 crit, 5 draw since there's 1 Benedict, probably 4 Maelstorms or so. And here our opponent uses the skill, so on 4th attack they get to draw 1 with the Draco Kid, and the Maelstrom lets them draw 1 as well, so that way our opponent gets to draw 2 and hopefully draw into their sentinels and survive the turn. I believe that is their goal. So yeah, unfortunate part about current Aquaforce is that, or like this current build that our opponent's playing, is that they play a lot of different interesting options, but they can't hit numbers, which is one of the reasons why, you know, some people would recommend playing the 6+2 on place +2, or playing 10k vanillas instead of a lot of these kind of 9ks and or 9+3s. I think there are a lot of options in Aquaforce, and you really got to play test it. And I think you can definitely perform better than this example. Oh, I'm really unfortunate. They just drive checked the PG. And they did hit a draw trigger though, so that's great. I'm pretty happy with that too, because that gives us a break ride. Opponent doesn't have a grade 2 in the front row, which means we can proc our crit, proc opponent's PG, if not win, and then pull out our multi-attack pieces. And Vanguard's probably going to attack first, since we don't have any grade 1s or grade 2s to call out anyways. So I believe that is the case. So let's hope we draw into a grade 2 or grade 3 or something like that. Can we see something? Okay. Break ride. So ideally you have a field, but we just got popped by Maelstrom. Check out my soul real quick to see my options. I have 3 multi-attackers, 2 10ks and 1. Oh, I can only call 2 because I have 2 counterblast only. So I have a 12k and a 10k. So how can we build our board to consider that? I guess we're still going to call this out. Let's get the crit. And be careful not to soul blast the grade 2, because you might end up riding Artemis. Obviously, this isn't the case for this turn. But sometimes it does. You re-ride for the draws, or you ride Artemis instead, and sometimes you just accidentally soul blast the 9k, the ride chain grade 2, and then it's like, wait, why is it a 10k? Oh, that happens. Do we really need to soul blast 2 to draw 1 card? I don't think it's necessary, but I guess this is the why not. We can set up the other 10k into the soul. And heal trigger, that's nice. Another heal trigger, that's nice. Slack it all to the left side, since if our opponent procs PG anyways, it's not going to hit. And if our opponent doesn't, then the 32k still passes through that 1 heal trigger. Here, we just want to hit. And then hopefully this is game. And heal trigger! So our opponent did end up getting the heal trigger, and that's fine, that's fine. So here we still have 1 crit trigger left. So I think we're doing pretty good. Like, again, the reason why we're playing, you know, a mixed triggers, I know people don't really like that, you know, crits and draws and all that stuff. But it does help you avoid those situations where you deck out. And as you can see here, with 6 cards left, even with playing 4 crit triggers, 9 draws, definitely I would have lost here, even when our opponent wasn't playing that well, and even if we were playing pretty well. And it definitely isn't a nice sight to see when you play really like, you know, you did all your combos, you got all your crit pressure, got all your pieces, ride chains, and then you still lose because of decking out. Like, that doesn't really feel good. And so yeah. So moving into set 11, actually, both Genesis and Aquaforce will get support. If you are interested in seeing what support they will get and what I recommend you picking up, do check out the set 11 overview if you haven't already. We are 1 week away from the new set, so definitely a good video to go catch up on what is going on. And I do believe that those clans get pretty good support. I am personally really excited for Aquaforce. Primarily because the break ride is quite devastating. So if you don't know what it does, it basically synergizes super well with Glory Maelstrom, and forces your opponent to discard cards in order to guard, and that's really scary. That's a very big final turn. So if you're into that kind of wombo, not even a wombo combo, just one hit KO, hope for the haymaker, then definitely look forward to Aqua Force 10 and 11. So yeah, I think we're super comfortable here. We even hit that trigger we didn't need. We ran out of triggers as well, which means that we don't have to be wary of how we attack with the Vanguard. Again, our opponent is keeping his defenses wide open without any intercepts. They still have 2 PGs and 2 heals in play, so definitely need to be careful and not butcher this. Opponent play hits the crit. So that's the 3rd Hydro Hurricane, and we have a PG to proc with that. So yeah, next turn is our final turn as well. We have no other options, so we have to seal the deal here and now, or else we will deck out. So. Alright, that's a great one. No, we're not going to reride. So we're going to attack with Rearguard first. If they don't have a PG, it means that my Vanguard can hit 22 and win the game with 2 crit. If they do, well, it procs the PG, and then, you know, it's less likely for them to have 2 PGs than 1 PG, so then I can comfortably use this skill. And then if they really do have the PG, then I still have 1 extra shot to my opponent's face with that 17k column. I'm gonna bling that SP. Super tight. We're almost there. Can we do it? Yes. No 2 heals in a row, please. And that is game. Very long game. Insanely long game. That was this video was 30 minutes long. So I guess I won't keep you in here any longer. That is it for this video. That's the W. Of course, this match wasn't really that representative of the meta. You know, you rarely see Genesis, you rarely see Aquaforce right now. But I think it was still a pretty fun match, and we got to show off the combos and all that good stuff that we can do with this deck. If you enjoyed the video, do be sure to like it. And if you didn't, then go dislike it, you know. And again, if you haven't subscribed already, please do subscribe. Hopefully, I will see you all soon. Bye.